Well, my father came from Lunate Pozzolo, Italy, province of Milano. And he came over in 1903. But prior to that, he had an uncle that was, I don't know how many years before that he'd been here. And I think he's the one that brought him over. And he worked, when he first arrived here, worked at the brickyard, like a lot of them did. And then he, after about, I guess about 1913, he went back to Italy, met my mother, and they got married. And they came back, and she came back with him. In the meantime, he went out on his own, doing landscaping and garden work here, in Santa Fe and San Anselmo and Ross. And after that, he bought a home in Santa Fe, and it was a pretty good piece of property. Yeah. And actually, he's a typical Italian, raised chickens. In fact, we had a goat and a few rabbits, and they used to make wine.
Was he trained to do anything before he came over, like, a baker? Or when he was in Italy as a young boy growing up, was he trained to do something? You know how they do the old apprenticeship back in the old days, where you were trained to do something for life almost? Did he?
Oh, you mean back when he was a
young boy in Italy?
Yeah, when he was a young boy, naturally he went to whatever, in small towns. It's usually the 5th grade, and by this time you're 12 years old. Yeah. And so he went to work as a baker's helper, and he was a baker until he came over here to the United States. And from there, he worked out at the brickyard. He was a pretty handy man, so I guess they put him on construction. And eventually, they made him a storekeeper for the company store. Okay. And actually, after he went to Italy, and my mother, he got married, then he moved to Santa Fe. That was just before I was born. Right. Because back there at the brickyard, there was no doctors there or anything, Yeah. And so they moved to Santa Fe, and went on from there. Yeah,
became his own landscape business?
Pardon?
His own landscape business? He
was gardening and landscaping. And then, as I say, around the house, he was always putting around, and he was remodeling it and stuff like that.
Yeah. How old did he live to be?
He lived 40.
He's 40?
Yeah. I was 8 years old, and he was 40 years old. Just 40 years old.
So you were born when?
February 16, 1916.
And you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one sister.
She's younger, older?
She's older, 2 years older.
And she's still?
Yeah.
She lives where?
She lives in Nevada.
Oh, Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay. After your dad died, what did your mom do with you and your sister?
Well, my mom, she was a terrific dressmaker. And she got to do a little dressmaking and stuff like that, alterations, and to keep us going. But then it seems that her relatives back in Italy, she was here as a widow, and they figured she was here all by herself, and so they finally talked her into going back to Italy, which we did.
What year?
By 1929.
29.
Yeah. By this time I was 12 going on 13 years old.
So how did you get to Italy? In those days, probably boat is pretty much the only way to go. So how did the family get back to Italy?
We left from San Francisco down through Panama, and that's across the Adriatic and the Atlantic, and up the Straits of Gibraltar to Genoa. And then from there, it wasn't too far, or about a 2-hour train ride from where we lived.
Okay. How long were you at sea? How long was that trip?
Altogether, about 30 days.
Wow. 30 days.
They were a combination of passenger and freight. Okay. And actually going from, actually their port was Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay. And from there to Trieste, which was a home port. And they'd stop like down through San Francisco, naturally, Portland, and whatever they had any cargo to pick up, they'd pull into port, and whatever 1-2 days depending on what the cargo was, and load. Then they'd proceed to another port. If they had to stop, or they'd pull in and do the same thing. And
Go ahead. So you make it to Italy, 2-hour train ride to the hometown.
yeah.
And how long did she plan on staying when you got there?
Well, supposedly it was only 6 months,
You plan on
but it wound up to be 2 years, 5 years.
So now, so you're in Italy. Europe is starting to get a little bit of turmoil, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
What was Mussolini in power or near around?
Yeah, Mussolini was in power,
Okay.
and he was evidently pretty strict. And actually, especially the peasants, you know, the poor people, they just have a little farming. That keeps their family going.
Yeah.
And they really didn't care for him.
Oh.
Of course, when Mussolini went into power, he naturally had the fascist party. And there was the King's army and Mussolini's army.
Oh.
So they can't have two armies.
No.
So the King's army went. See, and then he built up the Navy, the Army, and they had for a small country, they had a terrific Air Force.
Yeah.
Because they had fighters and bombers, the whole bit. In the meantime, I was getting ready to go to Ethiopia, to Abyssinia.
Okay. Yeah. Did they recruit the young village people? Or?
Oh yes, that was conscription, mandatory. I believe I was 18 years old. Once a month they'd go out for, you might say, maneuvers. I would teach them how to shoot a gun and handle the field pieces.
Yeah.
And then when they were 20, I think it was 20 or 21, they'd get drafted. They'd go through like we over here our draft,
Right, yeah.
the physical and the whole bit.
Right.
Then depending on what their aptitude was, then they'd put them in different branches of the service.
Were you asked to join?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened?
It did happen because I was there on a visa. I wasn't born there.
Right.
I'm
Yes.
a United States
American
citizen.
Yes.
And so they couldn't press the issue. But the small towns, what would be our mayor,
Right.
he knew I was there, and he knew about how old I was, and I had a cousin that worked in the office. So once in a while, he used to tell me, hey, the mayor wants to go in and sign up for the military. So I'd return the compliment and tell them I'm not born here, I'm an American citizen. So they couldn't touch me.
Okay, all right. That's good. So why did you after 5 or 6 years in Italy, your mother decides to come on back to San Rafael? Pretty much?
No, I was there and I didn't like it there. My sister, we just didn't belong there.
Right.
We were natives over here. So we did the best we could over there.
Right.
And then when things, get right for us, we managed to come back over again,
All right.
come back home.
So now you're back in. We'll back up a little bit. How long did you go to grammar school?
Grammar school?
Yeah.
I went through the 8th grade.
8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And where was that school?
St. Raphael's.
St. Raphael's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to the short primary. Well, I went to kindergarten there too, short primary. And I went to the 5th grade school because I had the 6th, 7th, and 8th on the corner of 4th and the East Street.
Okay.
So I went there. Then from there, a couple of years, then I went to parochial school.
So you graduate from the 8th grade. Do you go on to high school?
Not in San Rafael, no.
You go into the workforce. You go looking for a job.
Well, when I was back in Italy, I did go look for a job,
Right.
and I was apprentice blacksmith.
Oh, okay.
See, I worked as the handy boy in the blacksmith shop,
Oh, all right. That's where that's right. Okay.
and that's where it all started.
Okay. So when you came back here after you had a talent.
Yeah, I was already, I was getting to be pretty good. I could do things that, I wasn't.
Tell us about some of the jobs you held and how much money you made at that time. When you was.
Well, when I was in Italy, and as a blacksmith's helper or an apprentice, all you do is get a tip at the end of the week, you know. Well, you weren't on wages or salary, nothing like that. And if somebody came in and they brought their horses, because they used to shoe the horses, they brought their horse in and to shoe the horses, you know, and they'd usually give the boy a few liters tip.
So now you're back here,
Yeah.
and you start working where? In Santa Fe?
Well, in Santa Fe, I started to work for Vic's machine shop.
Okay.
Because Vic had not only the machine shop, they used to do wrought iron work.
Okay.
And over in Italy, I used to do that because I was an apprentice, and we used to build, you know, railings and gates and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So I was quite experienced at it. So I went to work for Vic.
You remember how much you made?
Yeah, 2.5 a week.
Was that good?
No, even in those days, it was very poor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, then I think he gave me $3 for 1 week, then he fired me.
Did he tell you
Why, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. Your next job would be what? Where would you go?
Then from there, I went to work for the fellow that used to own the Santa Fe lumber mill, Christensen.
Okay.
And he was putting up a building on 4th Street, remember where the 4th Street fire was?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right. It would be on, well, in other words, it was Ed's Auto Supply.
Okay.
Was that, and that's,
yes, yes.
all right. We put up the building. That building that Ed was in, actually they put one floor, then we went up and put a second story up. And I worked for him. And then I was getting $3 a day. Now that was good money.
Yes, $2.50 a week to $3.
Yeah, that's good money.
Yeah.
And of course it was 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But there was, and then I really wasn't into building, I guess. I didn't particularly care to be a carpenter.
Yeah.
So the opportunity came up to go to work for the Cam Siren company.
Okay.
So I started there.
But before we go to the Cam Siren, you have some work around Santa Fe that you built, right? Some artificial balcony-looking wrought iron.
Oh yeah, there's one in particular. It's on 4th Street. It belongs to one of the Soldavinis. I had the market down here on 8th Street.
Okay.
Actually, that would be on G Street.
Okay. So we go see your artwork.
And other than that, you know, there's 2 homes there. They're both identical. It's, going south down C Street. As you cross the creek, there's a little bend in the street there.
Okay.
And it sits on the right-hand side. And there's a little, I don't know, a little cul-de-sac or something there.
Okay, yeah.
It's, I think, the 3rd house from the corner. Either the 2nd or 3rd.
So how did you hear about the Cam Siren job? Were you looking for a job?
No, it was a friend of mine. He used to be a mechanic for Jack Hunt, the Hunt Garage. And he was an employment agency because he worked there for a while. And then, he went to work in San Francisco or someplace, a better job.
Yeah. Is Jack Hunt the one that had the polar bear in the front windows? Or
No, that was Baxter.
Oh, Baxter.
Yeah, no, Jack Hunt was down on F Street on the corner.
So now are you going to go to work in Ross for Cam Siren? At that time, what year was that?
It was 1936.
Okay, 36. And how many employees did they have at the time? Or?
Well, when I first started there was, I think, about 4.
It was in like a garage up off of...
No, it was, I don't know, the building was... I don't know, it might have been 20 feet wide and about 40 feet long. What it was originally built for, we don't know.
Okay.
Because it had a lot of windows and skylights.
Tell us about the gentleman who came up with the siren, the mechanical engineer who came up with it.
Conrad Musdorfer?
Yeah, Conrad Musdorfer. But that was his son, right?
Conrad, Adolf Musdorfer was the dad.
The architect.
Yeah, the architect.
And the son graduates from Cal?
As far as I know, yes.
Right, 1903-ish, something like that?
He originally he started school, I guess, out here at the old Hitchcock Academy.
Okay.
And It was a military school at the time.
He goes off to Cal.
And then he, after he graduated from there, as far as I know, he went to Cal.
Okay. And graduates in mechanical engineering?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Right.
Because,
So he, with his background, he starts up the Cam Siren company.
yeah,
And so when you worked for him then? In other words,
Yeah.
when you went to work, he was there?
yeah. Mhm.
And he did drafting?
Yeah, he was a good draftsman.
If you could, tell us the process of how a siren's made from scratch. Somebody draws it on a piece of paper, maybe the owner, and it goes from the drafting table, and then how is it made to I buy it and put it on my fire engine?
Like these, naturally, there's a casting involved.
Okay.
It comes from the drawing board, and then it goes to a pattern maker. If there's any patterns involved, it goes to the pattern makers. They make up the pattern. Then it goes to the foundry. They make the castings, and when it comes back, then the machine shop, they machine up the parts, and then naturally the parts they're assembled.
And this is all done in this same shop?
Yeah, it's all done there.
Everything was done, drafting table?
Right,
to the-
yeah.
going out to someplace in America?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I hear the story about the Studebaker starter being the ideal starter for the Kerem Siren. And what's the story behind that Studebaker?
Those were, I don't know what year Studebakers they were, but they're pretty old. And they had this one Siren here, that's the Studebaker starting motor. And it was a gear drive, and actually they were all 6 volt.
Okay.
And we had to have a 12 volt, then we increased the capacity of the field coils.
And you guys did this yourself inside?
Yeah. We converted from 6 volt to 12 volt.
So also, I'm told, I've understood that Cam also made other fire equipment like nozzles and gate wires.
Yeah.
They did this. They made it in that same building
In the same building.
with 4 guys.
Yeah. Well, there were probably sometimes there was more.
Yeah.
And
Because I see a lot. I look at old pictures and I see a lot of Cam Sirens on engines. So I assume you guys were pretty busy.
yeah, pretty busy.
Yeah.
But there was never any more than 5 or 6 people. Of course, during the war, then that was different again because we ran 3 shifts.
Right.
We were doing some work for the Navy and whatever, the shipyards,
Right.
whatever we could handle.
So you're up there making sirens, and then they sell the business, or just moved it to Sausalito?
No, he sold it. That was after I left.
Okay.
He decided to get out of it, so he sold the business.
And it moves to Sausalito.
As far as I know, yes, they moved to Sausalito.
Who the owners were at that time?
Yeah, at that time I believe it was Don Keeler and Gordon Blumenfeld.
Oh, okay. The theater chain people, the movie people here in the Bloomfield theaters.
Yeah,
They're same
yeah,
people?
the same family.
And then I'm told it went to Sonoma County.
Yeah, that's when they moved to the. This is after Peter Bechtel got into it because Gordon Blumenfeld he got out of the business.
Okay.
So Peter Bechtel he bought in, and his mother had purchased the property where Santa Rosa Brass and Bronze Foundry was.
Okay.
And it was a well-run and well-set-up business, so as far as the foundry business goes.
Is this the same fountain that made the Santa Rosa nozzle?
Yes, same one, yeah.
one, okay.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a side
Right.
job, you know,
Okay. something
something he wanted to promote.
Right.
And so after they moved up there, in the meantime, I'd had nothing to do with it because I'd quit. And finally, they wanted me to go back to work for them. And so one day, Peter Bechtel and Don Keeler came down, and you might say begged me to go to work, back to work for them, which I did.
And they were located whereabouts up in Sonoma County?
Right.
Where were they in Sonoma County?
Yeah.
Santa Rosa, or Sebastopol, or where?
In Santa Rosa.
Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, down Santa Rosa. What is it? Santa Rosa Boulevard? No.
Santa Rosa Ave.
Sonoma.
Oh, okay.
Sonoma Avenue.
All right. So you're back working for the Cam Siren Santa Rosa company now. This is what year about?
Let's see now. I guess about 1965, something like that. Yeah.
So you worked for Cam for how long when they were in Ross?
21 and a half years.
21 and a half years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of sirens. So then eventually after the time, I guess the Cam Siren, the Santa Rosa nozzle kind of passed into history because I can't.
Yeah.
And it just went on. I can't find anything about them any place. So I just assume they part of American history is gone, right? Yeah.
I was told that after they closed the in Santa Rosa, the Santa Rosa Brass Foundry, Don Keeler and one of his managers went to Placerville. They moved the equipment up there, and that was the final straw because they just couldn't make it.
Yeah, it's competition. So we have a very unique piece of we call fire equipment made here in the county and made in Ross.
Yeah.
The Cam Siren, and I haven't seen a lot of nozzles. Bob Moncucci, Chief Moncucci, has a nozzle.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have not seen any other. So they're.
Well, we used to make the regular play pipe. It was
Yes.
3 sections.
Right.
You know, they stood about that high, 2.5 to 1.5 inches.
So while you worked for Cam, you did all the different jobs throughout the shop. You basically could do anything in the shop yourself.
Yeah, after a while, I used to do all the pattern work.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And then when the castings come in because a lot of times we made just a temporary pattern, for instance, one of a kind. That was made out of wood.
Right.
And after you have your casting, you forget about it. But castings, when you make a casting for production, the patterns have to be a production pattern. So you make the master pattern, which is made out of wood, and that you have to allow the proper shrinkage, not only for the original casting for the patterns, but even after you have the master patterns, they have to allow shrinkage on that. But I used to make them out of wood. Then when you get to those castings back, if they required any machining of any kind, we'd do that, and then we'd mount them on a pattern board. And that would be a permanent pattern. So you're going to run thousands of castings off of that one pattern.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the assembly?
Then after the final casting gets machined, and it needs plating. It gets plated, or whatever they want.
Did you guys do plating up there too?
No. We used to do polishing most of the time. If there's any amount at all, we'd send it out and have it polished. But the chrome plating, no. At one time when they built the Siren, that was nickel. And they had nickeling tanks there, but they weren't being used anymore because times had changed and it was going to chrome. Nobody wanted nickel anymore.
Right. Yeah, don't want it shiny. Yeah. There's a rumor going around that you and Dave Torini used to go to junkyards, Torini junkyards, to get parts for these things. Is that true? Kinda.
Dave Torini's brother had the junkyard. John Torini.
Okay. So,
yeah, we used to get the fields, the housing, then we'd wind our own fields, and then we'd buy the armatures, a certain type, then we'd convert them for the Siren.
So you would go get parts from John?
Yeah, the housing for the field blocks and the housing, which is that round body, we get those from the junkyard. And we'd rebuild them because they had to be machined, you know.
Now, after Santa Rosa Nozzle and Cam Siren are gone, and probably up in Placerville, what did you do then? What kind of work did you go to after that?
I took about a year's vacation for one thing.
That's good. Did you go any place?
Not really, no.
Hunting?
No, not much.
So I heard, did you go to work for Handicap?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. You know they moved now, right?
Yeah, they moved just lately.
Yeah, Arizona, like a week or a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I know they were going to
But
move.
you work for them, making,
Yeah,
making,
making
molds and stuff, yeah.
machinery and molds for the cups.
And then you retired? Or you,
Yeah, then I retired out of there.
Tell us about your hunting. I'm fascinated with your big game, man. When did you get interested in shooting, going hunt for big game?
Well, that goes way back when I came back from Italy, you know, and
Okay.
I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And some of the, like Dave Torini's brother John and a few others, you know, they used to talk hunting. So we got together and we started to hunt together.
So, but I see you have a Cape Buffalo in your car.
Yes.
And did you get that in Africa?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've gone pretty much all over the world for the big game.
Yeah, I've gone. Yeah, well, we not only hunted Marin County, but you go to Modoc County
Yeah.
and other adjoining counties,
Right.
Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Washington.
I'm trying to get that special permit to go hunting.
Yeah, and Idaho.
You're still hunting?
Yeah, yeah.
You still hunting big game or whatever?
Not like these.
Yeah, right.
It's getting a little bit out of my reach, a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
They're fascinating, absolutely fascinating animals, fascinating hunting. So now you're just kind of working on your Dodge out there in the garage?
yeah, I'm trying to.
What else is out there you're working on? There's another
I'm working on that Packard I have out there.
Packard.
Yeah.
That's right. You were making a mold for that, if I recall.
Yeah,
You made your own mold?
Yeah,
to make
yeah.
something, yeah. Jamie might be interested in seeing that from what he's been remaking. So, I think that's about it, Louis. I think we got it covered. The people I see the pictures on behind you, are they family?
yes, yeah.
They are who?
My niece,
Okay.
and this is he's my great uncle.
Oh,
He's a priest over in Italy, in Milano.
okay. Catholic.
And what else we got here? Oh, my uncle. This is my mother, dad, my sister, and I.
Oh, wow, fascinating. Yeah, he's an Italian.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's a great picture. That's a nice picture.
Bill, let Jamie have that one. I want to have him hold it up in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's a nice. You might, if you got your camera.
this is my mother's brother and his wife. He was in the textile mill business.
Oh, in this country?
No, in Italy.
In Italy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
He employed well over 500 people.
Wow.
He was big time.
After you came back with from when you were 16, so have you been back to Italy?
No,
Yeah, that was it.
no.
Great. Well, Louis, I want to thank you very much on behalf of the
Yeah.
Marin County Fire Chiefs for sitting down, taking the time to talk about your history and the camp siren and stuff like that. And as we were talking about on the phone, I think you said right, the gentleman, the son, who had no family, the name I think has just drifted off, except for the name still in the city. He's very famous in the city.
Said yes.
And I was talking to some real estate people, and his buildings are high property.
Yeah, you probably have the same literature that I
Yeah,
have.
right. I get some stuff here, but I never realized
Yeah.
how popular.
Oh, he was,
an
yeah,
architect. Yeah.
really.
Well, again, Louis, thanks so much for your time. And
You're
what
welcome.
we're going to do now is do some work on the sirens. Okay, we're going to take the sirens out and have you work on them and just take them apart, talk to us while you're talking about it.
Yeah.
And Dan will film it. How can I tell when this was made? Jamie, come on, you do this, not me. I see a 38 there with a 4. You ask questions.
That's the serial number there.
Okay.
And the 4 is a model, naturally. And in other words, supposedly, I don't know, it all depends, they started from 1 or 100. That would mean that this was the 384th one they built.
Okay.
And the numbers you see on the nose are quite a bit higher. So they just carried the numbers all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be a good indicator of age, huh?
Yeah.
And on the tag too, like this one has the Ross tag, and this
And-
one has San Francisco.
At one time, Well, Senior, Muesdorfer Senior, naturally he was a builder in San Francisco. He had his office over there. And I guess, being the town of Ross is the town of Ross.
Right, in the city of San Francisco.
And they had all the office work was done over there.
Okay, because I've seen advertising where it says Cam Siren San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I think that was to kind of look more flashy to people around the country buying something from San Francisco.
Probably, yeah, because Ross was just a little,
town,
hamlet, In fact, they lived here, but it was a small town.
Right, yeah.
And after Muesdorfer Senior died, evidently they closed up the office over there. And so then they went to using the Ross address. That's as far as I know.
So what is the difference between the size of this drive unit that's driving this part versus this looks so much bigger, but could this just be housing?
No, it's the motor is much bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what would be, you might say, our standard starting motor over here, about that size.
All right.
Of course, nowadays they've changed, but in those days, that was a standard motor.
Yeah. Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, on one of them that the Alto Fire District had, it had a custom front where instead of saying cam, it said Alto. Was that common? Or was that a favor to somebody or a custom order, obviously?
That was, what was his name? Carl Heinen. He was the fire chief. And he was he was an avid fireman. He lived for a fire department.
Master mechanic.
Yeah, and in fact,
fire trucks up from scratch. Never bought a new one.
he probably had that made custom.
Yeah.
But that was not. It wasn't a stock faceplate.
Alto Richardson Bay.
Yeah, and was that something that would be done as a request item, or was that
No. That's
one-off?
just one of. Yeah. Knowing Carl as I know.
But you knew Carl, did you?
Because even on his personal vehicle, he had, I forget what the logo was, with a cross axe or something like that.
Yeah. But he was quite a guy. So okay, that's how it came about. They still have it. Says Alto on it,
It was held by a private party in up on Marina Vista, and it was the real long-nosed Seagrave.
Okay.
And it had a custom on the front of the nose had the cam siren mounted there, and it had the Alto badge on the siren.
I've seen a couple of these on eBay running for $400 and stuff like that. Cam sirens. I don't even look at the other ones.
This was in a box of junk that somebody turned into the fire station in Bolinas and said, "Do you want this?"
In Bolinas?
Yeah, and they had a couple over the years have encountered. There's a couple bouncing around that. People are interested in keeping, and they know what it is, and they're around out there.
Because on that siren, all the pattern work, I did that. When we changed the model, this base here, that was made by me.
Oh, well, okay.
And this part, the cage here, what we call the cage, I made the patterns for that.
Oh, okay.
And whatever pattern that was involved in, I did the work.
Okay, and so your name appears on the patent in Washington someplace, right?
No, I don't appear any place.
Okay. So how long would it take to make one of those from scratch? So, I mean, building it up to go into production. Just this little bit of housing with the veins.
To make the patterns and all. From the drawings.
The draftsman takes a piece of paper and says, "Okay, here, Louis, make
it." Yeah.
Production model.
All persons could, one man, about a month, because there's a certain amount of tooling that goes with it. You not only make.
Because I've seen on the balancing of the impeller to make the noise that it was, with a drill press. Just to get everything.
You get it balanced. Yeah. We had a special mandrel we put the rotor on, or the fan, as we call it.
Did that show on mine if we took it apart? No, and we've got the screen in front of it. I mean, those balances.
If we take this, I forget what mine even has on it.
Yeah. But we do balance them. You put it on some real sensitive bearings, and you wait for the high spot, the heavy spot, and you get it so you can turn them and it'll stay. Otherwise, they vibrate something fierce.
So was the screen like the original
Yes, this is the
Like the
original.
first,
Yeah.
first series, first, didn't they go to this?
Yeah, when we went to this type, we never did use the screen anymore.
Okay.
Because we start cutting with the mill, we cut the ports. But then it got to be, you'd lose a lot of them because then they'd break, and the casting wasn't very sound. They would break. So we found that the wire.
In the heyday of these, how many would you put out a year? Any idea?
Oh.
500, 200?
Oh, it's hard to say. Maybe
Yeah, 'cause
300, 400,
That's
500.
all I see is cam sirens on the old fire.
Yeah.
These guys
Yeah.
are very,
It was well known. They had a good reputation.
almost all American La France, the old ones.
Yeah. We supplied America, France, and Van Pelt,
Yeah.
Seagrave.
So we were going from the hand siren, making the transition to electricity to these ones. Yeah. So when you look at the history of, like
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
history of it, fascinating.
And on some of these, instead of the aluminum housing, it had had a stamped steel and then chromed. Was that just sort of the evolution of the? It was
It
an
was-
older one.
It didn't have this bell on it.
Yeah, the bell was stamped and then chromed.
No, the ones we've always made, the ones I had entered into, they were spun. And,
Okay.
with this shape, that was it.
Okay. But in steel and then.
Yeah, they
Chrome
could have been.
steel.
They could have been steel. Sometimes they wanted them just painted, so you'd have them spun out of steel, which was, the material was cheaper,
Yeah.
and then they'd shoot a coat of primer on them, paint them. But most of the time they were chrome plated,
Yeah.
or the aluminum ones. This is aluminum, they're polished.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, aluminum oxidizes if they're out in the weather.
Yeah, I'm sure, like Jamie was saying, my the old one there has been.
Yeah, this was probably nickel plated right there at Ross
Right.
when they had the plating tank.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta go up and find this building just to see. I mean, I don't know what it looks like, but I know where it's.
I mean, where it used to be?
Yeah, I mean on
No, just go up Laurel Grove to Winding Way,
winding way. Yeah.
and then it'll be nice to be on the left-hand side going up,
Okay.
and you can't miss it because the property was divided.
Right.
When you first go up Winding Way, there's a big steel gate there with a big mansion.
Okay.
And then you go a little further up, there's another small gate. And that's the entrance to the second home they built up there.
Okay.
And when you come to the gate, to your right, there's a little house in there, which is, I think, a guest cottage.
Okay.
That's where the shop was,
Oh, okay. Okay.
right back in that
Right,
corner.
very simple.
Yeah. It's all
Commute wasn't long.
it's all grown with a big hedge and bamboo, and then it's all fenced off now. But they still have the gate there. Now I know I talked to the lady when they were building that,
Oh, did you? Okay.
because they built the one home, then they built another one, and I don't know. This couple came from New York. They bought the second house
Right.
and the property that went with it. That included where the shop was in the back, and she didn't like it. She had it torn down and rebuilt it.
Oh, okay. So the original shop's gone.
Yeah, the original shop. Yeah, that's where the guest home is.
A footprint. Yeah. Oh,
Is-
maybe it's real.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny home. It's low. They try to keep it low so it wouldn't be too conspicuous.
Jamie, you happy? You want to take anything?
You might.
Oh, yeah. That's.
Huh? I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same lady or not, but her name was, but it was Cordis,
Okay.
and she was from New York,
Okay.
and he from a neighboring state. So you might punch the bell and introduce yourself
Yes,
and
yeah.
talk to the lady.
Yeah. See what did you find anything before you tore it down?
She did tell me that when they were doing the excavating, because the creek ran down the side of it, so they put all the concrete culvert in there.
Okay.
And they had somebody in with the dozer, and I talked to the operator. He said, well, I was wondering what was going on back here because I found all kinds of small motors back there in the creek. See, that's where all the junk used to go, was in the creek. And then I talked to her one day, and she said, "Oh, we found some terrific old bottles, odd bottles." So she said, no doubt she collected them all.
Wow.
So if you get to talk to her, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I have to do that.
Probably a lot of stuff
Yeah.
buried in the creek.
Yeah.
Because out in Woodacre, and you'll love this, when they cleaned everything out, they threw boxes of these out.
Yeah.
And that's, Woodacre, they stored everything. And then,
Yeah, because Woodacre used to be the county fire department. That's where it all started.
County Fire World Headquarters, and had the truck. That's where they built the trucks out there, and they had these, and they'd install them. But over the years, they'd collect. I have a couple of big red lights, the S&N lamp company, like the really big red lamp.
Yeah.
One of those got thrown out, and the cam sirens, and the other small lights made by S&N. They were just a flasher, no beacon, just like a Fresnel lens. Those went in, and a lot of the guys went dumpster diving, but a lot of that good old stuff just went, and nozzles and everything just went off to the scrap
Yeah, I
yard.
think of all the Santa Rosa nozzles that got in the dumps. They're gorgeous nozzles. The Santa Rosa nozzles with the rose and stuff. Gee, they're gorgeous nozzles.
Because we built a pretty good range of nozzles ourselves,
Yeah.
from the 2.5-inch plate pipe
Right. Yeah.
with the big handles on it,
Yeah.
and small stuff.
And now you got me looking for just
Yeah.
cam stuff. Yeah, I'm looking for cam because I find it raw in
Yeah,
California.
and that's what got its name. Our tips we put on they were 1.5 inches, they were long. I think they were 8 or 9 inches long. They were, in other words, the bore was not just a
Right.
taper. It had a cone in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they got a cam cone. That's where the nozzles got its name.
Oh, okay.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah,
So, okay,
yeah.
so it's in the nozzle.
Yeah, because I had looked on Google for cam cone siren, thinking that maybe that was the
Yeah.
full name, but I never.
I look for freewheeling siren. The only thing I got is a few advertising, which I copied. Ads for San Francisco and stuff like that. And then one is who made it. The father gets the credit. The architectural father is the guy who gets the credit for these. But I think it was the son who really did it.
Yeah.
Because that's his initials. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
father's
C.A. Muse was Conrad A. Musdorfer was
Right,
Adolf.
and that's the son. The son also. The son is. I think the middle name is Peter. So
Philip.
that's the
Philip.
Yeah, and I think Phillips.
Uh,
But his
P.
father got the CAM, so he probably fronted the money. Whatever.
Well, no doubt he financed the business.
Yeah, and the son had the mechanical.
Yeah.
To build them. So that's the story of camp. I mean,
In
that's,
fact, I have one of the little nozzles here that we used to build.
yeah, we saw.
I showed it to you, didn't
Yeah,
I?
we did,
Yeah,
yes,
it's for the force serve, just a little shut off with the
With the internal.
with the ball.
Yeah.
The ball, and that was a later model. Before it was a floating plate, but they weren't all that great. They used to dripple out,
Yeah.
and firemen don't like that.
You want to talk about this? You want to bring it out in the sun?
Yeah, it's all right. You can take it out here.
Shoot
It
a
won't.
shot.
It won't melt.
Just gather around
It's going to be better out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take one of these down and
Yeah, if you could get to see that lady, she's still an owner there. Why? It'd be,
we are. All right. What are we looking at here, Louis?
here you're looking at a pattern board.
And this is a patent for?
This is something I'm building for myself.
Oh, okay.
But anyhow, this is would be the pattern, and these are to control the shrinkage of the metal. They call them shrink bosses. These are a little bit too heavy, I think.
Yeah.
And this is the feeder gate,
Okay.
or they call it the sprue. But this is where they cut the hole to they pour the metal. See, because when it's in they mold it. They'll take, and this is the bottom side, the cope side, the drag side.
Okay.
The bottom. They take and they put this with the flask fits around it. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah. A little bit.
And they ram the sand in there, and then they flop it over, and they put the other half of the flask on it. They do this side,
Okay.
and then they they use a vibrator to kind of shake it loose, so it's like, you know, because they have to be drafted, they have to have taper on it, otherwise it won't pull.
Yeah.
They pull the lift cope off of it, then they'll lift the pattern out, the drag, and then when they get ready to cast it, they take and put the two halves together.
Okay.
In other words, so you'll come out, in fact I can show you this one.
Yeah, you got it out in the garage?
I'll get it.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wow.
I don't know if I have that on here or not. No. This is another part that belongs to this,
Right.
and this also. In other words,
That's that one.
that's what that is.
Okay. And this is going to be used how? What are you using this for?
This is one of my own projects.
Right.
I'm making an attachment for my lathe. If I want to turn, for instance, a ball with shut-off nozzles, I can do that.
Really?
See? Put the bar stock in, or the catch, whatever it is, and when I get this set up, I put it in the machine, and it'll turn it and come out with the ball. See? But the only one catch to it. You either have to have a little boss that sticks out, or a hole in it, so you can grab it in the chuck, see? Then you can't machine the whole thing perfect. Might be able to get all the way around, except that little boss that sticks out. But then that has to be finished another way.
Yeah.
And if it has a hole through, you put it on the mandrel, and then you come out and it's all done.